Clara Monroe never thought a crumpled flyer on a gas station bulletin board would change her life forever. She was a 29-year-old single mother, a mechanic who carried grease in her fingerprints and exhaustion in her bones. The only thing heavier than the tools she lifted was the weight of bills piling on her counter. Every day was the same cycle. Fix a stranger's brakes, stretch hamburger helper into 2 meals, kiss her daughter Evelyn goodnight, and pray the rent check wouldn't bounce. But desperation has a way of pushing people into impossible choices. And when Clara saw the words "garage for sale, $4,000, serious inquiries only," something inside her refused to let it go. The locals called the property cursed, the kind of place folks whispered about but never touched. But Clara didn't believe in curses, she believed in survival. She scraped together $3,700, the very last of her savings, and handed it over to a wiry man named Red Callahan, who warned her that the building had secrets best left alone. Secrets didn't scare Clara. What scared her was the thought of failing Evelyn. So she signed the deed, turned the key, and stepped into a cracked, dusty garage with rusted doors, broken glass, and a fading sign that read Whittaker Auto, Est 1959. She thought she was buying a place to turn wrenches and fight for scraps of income. But what she actually bought was history. That night, long after Evelyn was asleep on their thrift store couch, Clara grabbed a flashlight and crept back to her new garage. The place smelled of rust and stale air, the kind of odor that clings to forgotten things. She wasn't looking for treasure, just a reason to believe she hadn't made a colossal mistake. But as her light skimmed across cracked concrete, she noticed something odd. A faint seam in the wall, like a hidden outline where no outline should be. Her heart pounded as she pressed her palm against it. Hollow. Red's old key trembled in her hand as she slid it into a tiny, circular lock. Click! The wall shifted. A draft of cold, musty air hissed out as the concrete slid back, revealing a staircase descending into the earth. Clara froze. Every instinct told her to run. But then she remembered the rent due in 5 days, Evelyn's growing feet needing new shoes, and the fact that her last dime was already spent. So she tightened her grip on the flashlight and stepped down into the unknown. The deeper she went, the colder the air became until she emerged into a cavernous chamber. What her light revealed stole the breath straight out of her chest. Rows of cars, each draped in heavy cloth, dozens of them stretching into darkness. She peeled back one cover and her knees nearly gave out. A Ferrari, flawless and gleaming as if time itself had stood still. Behind another, a Porsche 356. Then a Shelby Cobra. Then a Jaguar XK 120. Clara stumbled backward, tears burning her eyes. She wasn't standing in a junk shop anymore. She was standing inside a vault worth more than the entire town of Blue Hollow. Clara's hands shook as she wandered deeper into the vault, pulling back cover after cover like a child unwrapping impossible gifts. Bugatti, Aston Martin, Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing, machines she had only ever seen in magazines, now standing before her in perfect, untouched condition. Each one bore a brass plaque detailing its year, model, and restoration notes in meticulous records of devotion, not neglect. At the far end of the room, under a single beam of dust-filled light, sat a heavy oak desk. On it lay a leather-bound ledger. Clara's grease-stained fingers trembled as she flipped it open. Each car was listed, complete with hours logged and current value. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, one final entry read, "Collection complete, 34 vehicles. Estimated total value, $18,300,000. Secure until ready." Clara's breath hitched. $18 million, hidden beneath a rotting garage she had bought for less than $4,000. She dropped into the wooden chair, chest heaving, her mind spinning between panic and awe. Why had Bernard Whitaker, the man whose name was carved above the garage doors, buried this fortune underground? Why not sell even one of these cars and live like a king? Why entomb them in secrecy while the town above withered into dust? Clara pressed a hand to her face, tears cutting through grease smudges. She wasn't just broke anymore. She was a guardian of something the world had forgotten. The next morning, Clara returned, unable to shake the vision from her dreams. This time she searched the ledger more carefully, and tucked between pages of perfect records she found something written in a different, unsteady hand. "If you're reading this, then I didn't make it. These cars were supposed to be my redemption, my apology to the world I abandoned. But time ran out. I hid them because people ruin beautiful things when they chase money. Maybe you'll be different. Maybe you'll do what I couldn't." Clara read the letter 3 times, her throat tightening until she could barely swallow. For years she had believed her life was defined by what she lacked: money, time, support. But now she realized she held something more powerful than wealth. She held a second chance, not just for herself, but for her entire town. The garage wasn't a curse. It was an inheritance, not of money, but of responsibility. She could keep the cars hidden, sell them off quietly, escape poverty forever. Or she could honor Whitaker's plea and give these machines back to the world. And standing there in the stillness, Clara knew her choice. This wasn't just about Evelyn's future anymore. It was about legacy. Clara knew she couldn't do it alone. So she walked into the local PTA meeting, her grease-stained flannel sticking out like a sore thumb among denim jackets and coffee cups. Clearing her throat, she told the townspeople what she had found beneath Whitaker Auto. At first, they laughed, accused her of spinning fairy tales. But then she laid photographs across the table: Ferraris gleaming red, Cobras shining silver, chrome polished to mirrors. The room went silent. Some muttered disbelief, others whispered prayers. Clara didn't ask for money. She asked for help. Help to turn the garage into something greater, a museum, an experience, a place that could breathe life back into Blue Hollow. The mayor's secretary scoffed. "People don't pay to stare at old cars." But then old Richie, a man who hadn't spoken in a public meeting in years, rose to his feet. His voice cracked as he said, "My daddy taught me to drive in a '49 Ford. Ain't seen one since I buried him. If this is real, then maybe this town's got one more story left in it." The room fell quiet again, and Clara felt tears burn her eyes. For the first time in her life, she wasn't carrying her burdens alone. She was carrying hope, and the town was starting to lift it with her. In the weeks that followed, Whitaker Auto became a hive of life. Old mechanics brought spare parts, teenagers painted walls in exchange for pizza, retired shop teachers cataloged cars, and even Sheriff Mullins donated a vintage gas pump from his barn. Clara, who had always survived alone, learned what it meant to build with others. She handed out brushes, sandpaper, and assignments, and slowly the garage transformed. The sagging beams were repaired, the dust swept away, the chrome polished to a blinding gleam. Evelyn ran through the aisles after school, dragging her friends along and whispering, "One day this will all be ours." Clara watched her daughter glow with pride, her heart swelling in ways no paycheck had ever given her. For the first time, Clara didn't feel like a woman drowning in bills and grease. She felt like a leader, a curator of history, and the beating heart of a community finding its pulse again. The day of the grand opening arrived. Cars lined the gravel lot and townspeople gathered in their Sunday best. Clara stood nervously at the microphone, her coveralls pressed clean, her voice trembling as she spoke. Until a few weeks ago, I was just a mechanic trying to keep my daughter fed. But when I opened those doors, I found a story bigger than mine, a story worth sharing. With a deep breath, she gestured to the garage. Welcome to Whittaker Heritage Garage. The bay doors rolled open. Gasps filled the air as the crowd stepped inside, their eyes wide at the gleaming lineup of classics worth more than $100 million. Children clutched their parents' hands. Veterans wiped tears from their cheeks. And Clara, grease-stained, tired, resilient Clara, realized she hadn't just uncovered a secret. She had given her town a future. Months passed and Blue Hollow pulsed with new life. Tour buses arrived every weekend, diners stayed open late, souvenir shops thrived, and strangers from across the country came to marvel at the hidden treasure Clara had revealed. But the true treasure wasn't the money or the cars or the headlines. It was the stories. A veteran who found his youth in a Mustang, a father and daughter who rekindled their bond over a Porsche, a little girl who proudly called the garage her mother's gift to history. And one quiet night, when the crowds were gone, Clara sat alone on the workbench, staring at the key that had started it all. A dull, ordinary key that had opened not just a vault of cars, but a vault inside herself. She realized second chances don't arrive wrapped in comfort. Sometimes they arrive as broken buildings, hidden stairwells, and the courage to open a door when you're terrified of what's inside. Clara Monroe's story is not about fortune. It's about grit, resilience, and the reminder that broken things can shine brighter than we ever imagined. And if you've been hooked by this story, if you believe second chances are worth fighting for, then don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's story is even more powerful, and I promise you, you won't want to miss it.